Okay, it's 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please.
Councilor Peterson,
Here.
Councilor Geisler,
Here.
Councilor Jelly,
Here.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Here.
Mayor Boucher.
Here. Any announcements from councilors this evening? I have just one. I'd like to congratulate the 163 members of the Hermantown class of 2025 and wish them the best as they go forth in the world. We have several public hearings tonight. We will start with item A on the public hearing portion of the agenda. Public hearing regarding a proposed amended business subsidy policy for the city. Mr. Mulder, should we have Mr. Ronchetti describe this?
Yes. Mayor Boucher, councilors, before you is a proposed amendment to the business subsidy policy. The original policy was adopted in 2013 with a small amendment being made in 2022 to allow for housing as one of the allowable uses. But other than that, it has remained unchanged for the last 10 plus years. So before you, in consideration of the fact that many things have changed, both in the city of Hermantown, but also in the way that economic development is practiced, we're bringing before you a new and updated policy to reflect some of those changes. The intent of a business subsidy policy is to create consistency and predictability for developers and for businesses. And this updated policy modernizes our policy and consolidates the old policy to a more concise version. It also adds a specific addended policy for TIF and TAF. So those, so tax increment financing as well as tax abatement financing. Those two policies are intended to be subordinate to the overarching business subsidy policy, which is the overarching guiding document. These, both the increment and the abatement financing policies identify geographies in the city of Hermantown where these two types of public financing can be deployed. It shows the city's priority, and it also works to align with the comprehensive plan on our density corridors for things like Maple Grove Road and Highway 53. They're slightly different because a redevelopment district that is defined for tax increment financing is slightly different than our priority areas. So some of the TIF portions were cut out of where there's additional TAF portions. But those maps are included in the policy as well. And just as a note, a business subsidy policy is required by the state if a city or a municipality or a county is going to give or provide public financing or subsidy to any project. The key changes for this policy from 2013 to now is, again, it creates a TIF and a tax abatement financing policy where one does not exist today. It replaces what was the fast track committee with a review by HEDA staff. HEDA will then act as a recommending body for any application to the council. Similar to planning and zoning where planning applications are made. The HEDA, the Economic Development Authority, would then make a recommendation to council, with council having the final authority over things like tax increment financing and tax abatement financing. The business subsidy policy does allow for HEDA to be a grantor themselves for small programs such as storefront loan programs or any business lending programs that the Economic Development Authority would have expertise on. But for the large subsidy and financing packages, those would all come to council. Further, the new policy creates a focus on job quality, housing, economic diversification, and specific community goals. The previous policy had very broad brush strokes on what was considered community benefit. This puts a little bit more guardrails on it, and that list is found in the policy. One of the community benefits is job creation. That is not a required. So in the list of public subsidy purposes, any applicant will have to satisfy two out of the entire list. So they'll identify those in their application. If one of those is job creation, we've recommended a change to what would be tied to job creation. And that includes a minimum of 5 jobs have to be created, not just one as it was in the previous policy. And then because we want to emphasize quality jobs and not just jobs for the sake of jobs, we recommend including a minimum wage requirement for any subsidized projects be 135% of state minimum wage, effectively a $15 an hour minimum wage. And those would only, but again, that's only for any job, any projects that apply and receive subsidy. Further, the last thing it does is it requires a subsidy to meet the but-for practice. Subsidy and financing will not be provided to a project unless it shows that the project could not move forward economically without public participation. And it also, the policy also states that the amount given by the city or participation of the finances will be the minimum amount needed to make the project successful. So that will put some guardrails on how much will be asked for as well. So that's the last thing I'll say is that HEDA will hold a second or another public meeting because each grantor per the state has to have a public meeting. So because both the city and the economic development authorities under this policy can be grantors, HEDA will also conduct their own public hearing on June 18th.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, is there any public input to the proposed business subsidy policy? If we have anyone that wishes to address the business subsidy policy, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address. It's the last opportunity for public comment to the business subsidy policy that's proposed for the city. Hearing none, we will move on to resolution 2025-85. Resolution adopting and amending and a restated business subsidy policy. Is there a motion from council regarding this?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilor Geisler to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Andy
Councilor.
can have it.
What was that? Councilor Jelly? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next, item B, public hearing to review the closure statement provided by Elevated Management LLC pursuant to Minnesota statutes 327C095. Mr. Mulder, is there someone from staff we should have explain this? Are you okay doing that, Gunnar?
Sure.
City Attorney,
Mayor, councilors, tonight you would have essentially two things that you're going to do with the Maple Fields mobile home park, which is in Hermantown here. First, the city has been notified by way of a closure statement that is in your packet that they intend to close the park by February 13, 2026. This public hearing that you're holding tonight gives the public the opportunity to explain to the council the impact of the closure on them and the community. And then the second item is to, under the statute, the city has to appoint a neutral third party to be the paymaster and arbiter of the Minnesota Manufactured Home Relocation Trust Fund. This is in conjunction with the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. The person that has been recommended for this position is a local attorney that works in the public housing arena, and that was the background that was recommended to the city by the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. And so the council will be asked to appoint this individual to that position.
Thank you. If there is anyone who wishes to address the council about these items, please step forward to the podium and start with your name and address.
Resided in elevated management.
Could you speak into the,
Excuse me, my name is Dennis Damian. I've resided in that park for over 20 years. That is my home. That's where I live. From what I
Okay.
understand, it is going to be closing. So I've got an application here to submit to the third party, I believe. It's for the trust fund.
okay, how does that
My,
work?
my trailer's too old to be moved.
Mr. Johnson, do we know how those work?
Yes, we do know how those work. And what we can do is you can submit your application to Eric Johnson tonight, and he will forward that to the third party administrator once we have this person appointed. So
We don't even have a third party yet.
not yet. We're gonna do that. We'll come tonight. We'll start that process.
Okay.
But this is your opportunity to also explain the impact on you of the closure of the park.
Well, yes, it's been my home for over 20 years. I don't want to move, but, and another thing is it closes in February of 26. And I do not want to move in the middle of winter. So I was wondering if the relocation trust fund could be set up that we could obtain that ahead of time during a reasonable month for relocate. Nobody wants to relocate in the winter.
I don't have an answer for your question.
Yes, we will work with you. And if you submit that paperwork to Eric Johnson before you leave, then if there is additional follow-up that is needed, we will, the third party administrator will follow up with you and do our best to accommodate your needs.
And I have all the paperwork for this. That you would, whatever you ask.
I'd like to leave that with Mr. Johnson.
Now,
Actually, so if, I'll just take it right now. That'd be great.
If there's any questions, just don't hesitate to ask.
Definitely do so. Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the council this evening about this subject? If so, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
We have hearing problems. Ed Bellevue, I've lived in Court since 1988. I own the only question I have is, are they gonna help me relocate? I have found a place to move. The only question is, who's gonna pay for it? I cannot afford it. I tried finding people that will transport, but you can't find them around here. I talked to one, he said he would do it. And it'd be someplace between 10 and 20,000 to move it. I say, I'm with them. I really don't want to move. The only issue I have with them is the water line. The water line freezes in the winter. But since I have to move, yeah, am I going to be helped financially?
Mr. Johnson, do we have an answer for that question?
These are good questions, and that is why the council is moving tonight to appoint a neutral third party to administer this trust fund that helps finance the costs that you are talking about.
Okay.
So, there is some paperwork that is to be filled out. It's not surprising if you don't have that filled out yet. But
I haven't received anything from anybody. The only one I've heard anything from is a lawyer from, how is it? Justice Newark. He's the only one that has contacted me or I've talked to. Other than that, I haven't heard anything from the, park owner, nothing.
okay, and you're still living in the park?
Yes, I am right now. I have been looking. I have found a place. My only question right now is, will somebody help me find somebody that will move me? I've looked all over the place. I can't find anybody. And
This,
the other one is who's gonna pay for it, or help pay for it.
yeah, and so we have your name and staff will follow up with you once this person is in place to start the process of getting the application for the relocation fund and trying to get you that funding to assist you with these costs.
Okay, no idea how long that's gonna be. I was gonna, sign, application to move into new place, but I don't wanna commit myself until I know somebody's gonna help move me.
But we will push that forward as quickly as possible.
Okay? But I'll be hearing from you or,
Somebody will get a hold of you.
pardon?
Somebody will get a hold of you.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the council at this time? Is there anyone that wishes to provide input into the issues in front of the council at this time? With none, we will close the public hearing and move on to resolution 2025-86. Resolution appointing Brandon M. Engbloom as the qualified neutral third party for Maple Fields Mobile Home Park. Do we have a motion relating to this?
Move to approve.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Peterson. Could we have a roll call?
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Motion passes. Next is a public hearing on road improvement district number 452, Lightning Drive and Thunder Chief Lane, including sanitary sewer extension and other infrastructure improvements in section 14. This is a public hearing. If anybody wishes to speak to this issue, please approach the podium and start with your name and address.
Mayor, before we,
Wait a second, Josh, we're gonna have our city engineer do an explanation of the project.
yeah, let's just do a brief, kind of description of the project. Do you have that PowerPoint?
We're,
Joe stepped out to help
Joe
me.
stepped out and we're getting it loaded here.
Joe is doing double duties with, community engagement tonight. There you go.
Ah, you found it.
Good. You're gonna-
Now can you run it?
Okay, ready? Yeah. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a public hearing for what we're calling the Lightning Drive project. This is a project just, straight to the east of us here at City Hall. Go to the next slide. This is part of our road improvement plan. So just a brief history of this. It started almost 10 years ago when we conducted a inventory of all the streets within the city, and we ranked the streets from 1 being a new street to 5 being a street that was in disarray. And the first 5 years of this plan, we've been focusing on those deteriorated streets. And this area of town is one of the streets that we ranked very low as far as the how the road and potholes and such. So this has been on our radar for a number of years to reconstruct. And originally we were planning to do this in 2018, and because of other funding opportunities and cooperative agreements with the county and grant opportunities, we've we've pushed this project. And now that, it's come to a point where we've studied it and we have, the pieces in place to construct this. So this is a map we've kind of seen before in some of our other projects. As you can see, we're on the top bar of this graph. The circle there is the public hearing that you have this evening, along with the ordering of the improvement. And then as we go through this process, there's some milestones that are on our roadmap here to bring us to the closure of the project. So just in summary, we'd have another some public information meetings and 30% plans that are prepared. At our next council meeting, the administration is going to be bringing a recommendation to hire an engineer to do the work. And then we'll take the next 6 months to complete that work. And then in January of 26, we're going to ask you to approve the plans and authorize us to go out for bids. Then we review the bids in February and March of next year. We would award the construction contract. And we anticipate this to be a 2-year construction period. So we would construct in 26, put it on winter suspension, and then in 27, we would complete the project, have a final public hearing for the assessments in the fall of 27, and then in the end of the year, you would approve the assessment for the tax purposes. So that's kind of a nutshell, the life cycle of this project. If we go to the next. John, is this one you want
Yeah.
to touch on?
So this starts off with our financial management plan that looked at a multi-year fiscal plan for all of our supported programs. And we looked at debt, future debt, capital improvement, tax-based growth, all of these things to kind of plan how we can take care of all of the various needs that the city is facing. And we want to try to help manage expectations, maintain our assets, and add clarity instead of reacting to budget, just be more proactive in doing so. The next slide just shows a little bit of the history of how that financial management plan has shaped the road improvement plan. We go to the next one. Oh, sorry. We looked at different ways that we could pay for roads. We can do road assessments and we can use the general tax levy. But there's lots of other different types of funding that we have, but for various reasons, we can't do that. So we get municipal state aid, but that can only be used on state aid roads. We can use local government aid, but most of that has been dedicated to the Hermantown Fire Department. Sales tax allows us to do some work. And in fact, we're going to be spending some sales tax on some of the sewer and water upgrades on this project. We do have some stormwater utility fund and some sanitary sewer funds that we could use, the street light, and then we also have grant opportunities. And we're using grant opportunities along with this project to cover the cost of the trail. Here's just previous iterations of the road improvement plan. So the first one was done in 2020, where we did Johnson, Portland, Carlson, part of Hermantown Road. In 21, we did Levesque Junction. 22 and 23, we did Uggstead Road from Maple Grove to Highway 53. And then in 24, and we're finishing up in 25, Hermantown Road between Highway 2 and Uggstead. So we've been using this process now for 4 or 5 different years. Back to you, David.
Okay, so thank you, John. So this map, I think we've seen it before. This is an excerpt from the preliminary engineering report that we prepared and presented at a previous council meeting. But to summarize this, we have 5 segments of this project. Segment 1 would be the reconstruction of Lightning Drive. So that's the east-west portion there. Second is Thunder Chief Lane. That's the cul-de-sac that goes to the north, the dead end there. Section 3 is that green line, and that's taking out 2 lift stations that are on Lightning Drive and then putting a new gravity sewer line from Stebner Road flowing west to the existing trunk line, just north of, the Pillars project. And then the, fourth piece of this is the reconstruction of Getchell Road. That's the 1/4 mile from Maple Grove north to Lightning Drive. And that, includes, water and sewer as well. And then the last piece of this project is a new multi-use trail, which will start at Levake, have two, like access points through the woods, to Getchell Road, and then along a Lightning Drive over to Stebner, and then Stebner Road south to the the signals at, Maple Grove and Stebner. So, if we can back up one slide here, Joe. Thank you. So this map also, there's two different colors. The green are residential parcels that have a road assessment attached to it. At the current, road assessment rate of $9,750 per parcel. And then the light blue are the commercial properties within the industrial park. And those properties, there's 19 of them. And on previous projects that have commercial properties, we've assessed $25,000 per parcel. So if that total of the assessed value is $514,000. So as we get into the next slide, we'll look at the more in depth of that. So again, these are the 19 parcels within the industrial park. There's some parcels that are not highlighted, and those are ones that are owned by the cities, and we're not assessing ourselves for a project. So these are the 19. We did 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, we had public information meetings, one specific to the business owners for the commercial piece, and we had one for the residents along Getchell Road. So these slides just kind of highlight those areas. Go to the next slide. So project costs, again, I think most of us have seen this, but we broke it down into costs per segment for the total cost of $9,844,000, just under $10 million. And these segments include all the soft costs, which means engineering, legal fees, land acquisition, permit fees. So then how do we fund this $10 million project? So the bottom table breaks that funding source down. So as John mentioned, as part of the financial management plan, the use of sales tax, we have 3 different pieces of this project that are we feel are sales tax eligible. The first being the sanitary trunk spur. So this is the sewer line from Stebner west to the trunk line, similar to what we did in 18 and 19 when we built the trunk spur through section 24. Then the sales tax to the water main. So this is specific to the water main along Getchell from Maple Grove up to Lightning. And then via the Community Recreation Initiative referendum, we're able to use some sales tax dollars for the trail. Then the DNR grants, Eric and his staff have secured 2 grants totaling $1.49 million. So that money is available for the use of the trail. And then the assessments from the previous slides, there's 23 parcels totaling $514,000. Then we have a stormwater utility that's, our estimation is we have a close to $800,000 at eligible cost, but there's not that much in the fund. So we're allocating about $100,000 towards that. And then the balance of the 9.8 minus everything else is where the general fund comes in at $3.2 million. So that's how the cost breakdown and the funding breakdown of the project. Then this is our typical section. The typical section is the makeup of the road. This is very similar to Stebner Road and Ugsted Road that we recently rebuilt, 32 feet wide. We have some soil corrections in here, have a pretty good section to support the truck traffic. And then this shows a sidewalk or a trail on either side. That will be vetted out during the 30% design phase of this project, but likely would have a trail and not a sidewalk. So that's the section we're proposing on the 3 road segments. And then with that, are there any questions or comments on this project?
I don't see any from council. Are there any questions or comments in chambers? If you wish to speak to the council, please step to the podium and start with your name and address.
Is Rachel Cobb. I live at 4155 Getchell. I'm just above Lightning. So I just have a couple questions. My first is, how long is the assessment for? Is it multiple years? Is it 1 year? What are we looking at that way? And then my other question is, being as we are above Lightning Drive, we recently, within the last couple of years, put in a septic. So we're good that way, but we are interested in water. So what does that look like for us?
So first question, the 9750 is usually spread out over 15 years.
Okay.
And it works out to be about $870 some a year.
Okay.
In terms of water and sewer, we would have water and sewer availability charges. And each person, as they hook up, would have to pay a portion of those costs.
Into your home or whatever?
Yeah.
Correct, okay.
Well,
But that would be
also-
available to us even though we are above Lightning Drive?
Yeah,
we're
we'd
the
have to look-
property that's like,
We
right
talked specifically
at-
about your parcel.
Yep.
Is that we would make it water and sewer available to you.
okay,
I know that we've talked in the past
yes,
about sewer and it just, the timing didn't work out.
yep,
But at some point in time in the future, you wanted to hook up to sewer,
Mhm.
then that would be an option, but you wouldn't have to do that until you were
Right.
ready.
yeah, it should outlive me, hopefully.
But the availability charge for that is in lieu of an assessment.
Sure, yep,
So there wouldn't be an assessment,
right.
but if you hooked up to water, there's one
It would be something we
availability.
would finance,
Right.
correct?
And then
Right.
if you were hooked up to sewer later on, there'd be another availability
Yep.
for that.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure it was available to us, so. Okay, thank you.
You can be next.
Josh Toms, 4113 Getchell Road. Just a couple questions, maybe one for the city engineer here. Will the Getchell Road be built up similar to Lightning Drive to hold truck traffic? Because now that the Lightning Drive and Getchell does go through, we do have a significant amount of truck traffic that does go down that road now.
That is our intent, is to design it towards a 10-ton road design.
Okay. Excuse me. Second question, is the sidewalk and city sewer going down Getchell as well? Is that the intent?
The plan that we prepared in the study and the council decided or may order the project this evening includes water and sanitary on Getchell Road from Maple Grove north to Lightning Drive, as well as curb, gutter, and sidewalk on one side of Getchell Road.
Perfect. And then final thought, it's not really, I appreciate everything everybody does here. But it'd be nice to encourage some public utilities for, as far as high-speed internet to come down our road. We have had some praises just to put a main from, one power pole down to our house, and there's astronomical fees associated with it. So if we could, and I know you can't force a private company to do so, but if we could highly encourage them, that'd be amazing. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment on this project? Last opportunity for public comment on the Lightning Drive Thunder Chief Lane Getchell project. Okay, we will close the public hearing and move to resolution 2025-87. Resolution ordering improvement and directing preparation of final plans and specifications for 2024 road improvement district number 452, Lightning Drive, Thunder Chief Lane, including sanitary sewer extension and other infrastructure improvements in section 14. Do we have a motion regarding it?
Move to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. Could we have a roll call?
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye, and that ends our public hearings for this evening. We will move on to communications that are placed on file. And Mr. Mulder, could you give us a short synopsis of the report on our audit?
So the auditors presented the audit for the year ending 12/31/2024. It was a clean audit. There was only one item where we just needed to comply with getting a IC 134 from a contractor that we missed. So they did catch us on that. But generally, it was a clean audit. It was a good year. Our fund balances increased significantly. So that puts us in a very strong financial position when we go out to borrow money. They did talk about our debt high. Our debt is high, but we also have a strong fund balance. So that helps us when we go out for rating. But as a general rule, 2024 was a good year financially for the city.
Thank you. Motions. Under number 9, I'm not going to read all of the addresses and the days of the week that they are applicable to, but motion to approve or deny the renewal of liquor licenses for the following: Odd Shrine, Famous Dave's, Due North Pizzeria, Joe's Quick Marts, Mackenzie's Bar and Grill, Adolph Store, China Star, Beacon Sports Bar, Quick Trip number 216, Quick Trip number 220, Quick Trip number 572, Lake Cinema, The Social House, Outback Steakhouse, Foster's Bar and Grill, Valentini's, Sammy's Pizza, Sam's Club, Skyline Social and Games, The King of Creams, and Walmart number 1757. Do we have a motion relating to this?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Counselor LeBlanc. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Peterson. Is there any public input on this motion? Any public input on the motion for the renewal of liquor licenses? Last opportunity for public input on the renewal of liquor licenses. Do we have a roll call?
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is a motion to approve or deny the temporary service area expansion application and dance permit for the Beacon Sports Bar for Summerfest on July 18th and 19th, 2025, with proposed hours of sale from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. Is there a motion relating to this? Motion by Counselor Geisler to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
This is an annual thing that we do every year. Beacon Sports Bar has expands their where they can sell liquor. In order to do that during Summerfest, they need this special permit.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this motion? Any public input on the motion for a temporary service area expansion application for the Beacon Sports Bar? Any public input on the motion to approve a temporary service area for the Beacon Sports Bar for Summerfest? Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Motion to appoint Chris Kibler for a 3-year term on the Board of Appeals. And do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc. Is there a second?
I'll second.
second by Counselor Peterson. This is the appointment for a 3-year term. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I spoke with Chris before the meeting. I think he'll be a good fit.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Is there any public input on this appointment? Any public input on the appointment of Chris Kibler to the Board of Appeals? Any public input on the appointment of Chris Kibler to our Board of Appeals? Could we have a roll call?
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Aye. Next is the consent agenda. Approval or correction of the May 19th, 2025 City Council continuation minutes and accounts payable. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Peterson. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next ordinance is ordinance 2025-11. This is a first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 Land Use Regulations. Mr. Mulder, should we have Mr. Johnson explain this?
Yes, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is regarding Chapter 5, Section 535 of the Business and Light Manufacturing. If you recall, back in the April City Council meeting, staff asked council to table this ordinance at that time, as staff felt that there was a need for some additional language clarifications associated with the proposed language changes. Staff has since done this and has brought this back before Planning and Zoning. Back at the May meeting, there were no comments associated with that Planning and Zoning. So before you, this is the update which addresses communication facilities within the BLM zoning district. Some highlights including changes that we modified between the two time periods was the defined setback area from property lines as opposed to nearest residential structures. We felt that that was a little bit vague. It would have necessitated that there were actually surveys completed to be able to really pin down how these distances played out. So staff believes that actually by using the property lines, it's much easier to define these things that way for the setbacks. Likewise, we further define setbacks as they relate to residentially zoned properties as well as business light manufacturing type of properties that way. We have two different sets of setbacks associated with how those abut each other that way. We define perimeter screening, which now includes earth and berms, as well as fencing and landscaping. Before, we just had landscaping. We talked further about defining noise and how to mitigate that with the use of walls, buffers, landscape, and other dampening or mechanical type equipment that way. And it also speaks to the ability to utilize a master plan, a phased master plan, showing how any project could develop, and to be able to utilize that master plan as a guide or a framework for any future additions associated with any sort of a building or proposed development at that point. So that really highlights the changes that we've made between these that time period.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Or any public input on this first reading of ordinance 2025-11? Any public input on the ordinance amending Chapter 5 Land Use Regulation? Do we have any public input on the ordinance amending Chapter 5? We'll move on to ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance amending Chapter 7, special use permit. Should we have Mr. Johnson over this also?
Yes, please.
Great, thank you again. This is Chapter 7, Section 740 of special use permits. This actually addresses duration of permits. In the past, we have always considered that special use permits run with the land, but that language never actually appeared in our ordinance. So what we're doing is we're adding that information or that language so we can codify that the special use permits run with the land. As staff has been looking at zoning districts and zoning code, associated with our comprehensive plan, we realize that there's going to be many other opportunities to address specific sections within our zoning code to provide some clarifying language or look at some new zoning districts. So we anticipate you'll be seeing some of these other type of amendments coming forward in the future, but this is generally starting the process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Any public input on this first reading of ordinance 2025-13? Do we have any public input on an ordinance amending chapter 7, special use permit? Any public input on ordinance 2025-13? With no public input, we will move along to resolutions. Resolution 2025-88, resolution approving an amended lease agreement with the Arrowhead Builders Association. Is there a motion regarding this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Peterson to approve. We have a second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder?
The Arrowhead Builders Association has rented a portion of Old City Hall dating back to about 2010. They are currently in the process of kind of reviewing their operations. They currently do not have staff that are present there, and so they wanted to reduce the amount of space they are using. So we basically reduced down to just 2 rooms they're just using for storage. And we've told them that the lease would end at the end of June of 2026 with the idea that we would look at the future of that building and, look at other options regarding that building.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on resolution 2025-88? Is there any public input on the resolution approving an amended lease agreement with the Arrowhead Builders Association? Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2025-89. Resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute an acceptance of easement agreement to the city of Hermantown from Andrew and Bonita Chapin for the Hermantown Trail project. Is there a motion relating to this?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Counselor LeBlanc. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
So we have been working on acquiring easements for the trail project that we hope to build in 2026. Along this stretch, this property is on Oakstrom, and on the backside, we're acquiring 20 feet of easement, which will abut 20 feet of easement on the neighbor's property as well, that has been in existence for a number of years. And so this would then allow us to a 40-foot easement to build that trail, and that's in between. If Portland and Carlson roads were extended in that section there off of Johnson.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on a resolution approving an easement agreement? Is there any public input on resolution 2025-89? Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2025-90, resolution approving change order numbers 24, 25, and 26, KA change order number 8 for the North Star Ford Arena in the amount of $773.97. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
These are 3 relatively small change orders that would be funded under the KA's contingency. The first one is we're actually going to delete some protective netting along the sides of the rink to improve the kind of the view of the ice during games. So that was a credit of just over $5,200. And then we're also adding some additional interior signage and new toilet partitions in the existing arena. So the total of that was for $5,700.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on resolution 2025-90? Is there any public input on the resolution approving change order numbers 24, 25, and 26 for the North Star Ford Arena? Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher,
Aye. Next is resolution 2025-91, resolution approving change order numbers 27, 28, and 29 for the North Star Ford Arena in the amount of $306,340.62. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Is there a second?
Counselor LeBlanc.
Oh, I'm sorry. Counselor LeBlanc.
I don't need, Andy probably doesn't want his name tangled in all this.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Peterson. Mr. Mulder?
Again, these are three change orders that will come out of the city's soft cost and its contingency. But then the Arena Legacy Fund has agreed to fund those costs if the contingency does not cover it. So the three changes are to add 2 end wall scoreboards. Those scoreboards are at the end of the rinks above the goals. That would allow the synchronization of those 2 scoreboards with the main video board that's on the west wall. It's on the large west wall there. Previously, we had, as part of the bid package, scoreboards, but those were part of the KA's construction contracts. And the purchase of the large video board was done out of FF&E in the soft costs. Well, it turns out those scoreboards didn't talk to each other. And so the Arena Legacy Fund and the hockey people wanted those scoreboards to be able to sync. So they are recommending that we add 2 scoreboards at the end walls. The ones that we had already purchased through KA's contract will get moved to the existing arena. Then there's also a change order to add enhanced speakers, audio equipment. There'll be 23 speakers that will be hung throughout the arena and the lobby to improve sound quality. And then finally, they are expanding the video boards on the west wall for $112,000. That will increase the size of that video board from 10 feet by 22 feet to 10 feet by 34 feet. And that's for $112,000. They have said that they will cover those costs to the extent that contingency cannot cover it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? As a joke, I was going to ask if the netting would have protected the video screens.
Yes, that is true they've removed them on both sides.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. There's probably quite a bit of effort to install these pieces of equipment. Is that included in these?
This price is installed.
Including the 2 in the existing arena?
That might be an additional amount.
Okay.
So
But KA said they didn't think it would be, it wouldn't be astronomical, but there would be some additional costs there. Yes, yes.
so there should have been some price to install on the initial contract. Is that being reduced, or is this 306 less than it would have been had that price not been included?
No, that's a good point, is that instead of installing in the new rink, they'll just install in the old one. There might be some minor fluctuation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But there was a board, a scoreboard, not a scoreboard, the center one, the advertising board, essentially. There was a board being installed there.
Correct.
Where was the cost to install that captured initially?
My understanding is in the original proposal for audiovisual. So that was already included, but now we're adding an additional 12 feet of video board.
I will trust that it's all been worked out.
I hope we don't need the nets back. Is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on resolution 2025-91?
Mayor, I'll make one more comment. I expressed some of my concern to the Arena Legacy Fund, and I shared my memo with them so that they understood, the implications of this relative to their fundraising. So they were well aware of the concerns that we had about use of contingency. So
Thank you. Any public input on resolution approving change order numbers 27, 28, and 29 for the North Star Ford Arena? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Peterson,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. And since we can't just get up and walk out and leave the meeting open, is there a motion to recess?
Move to recess.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Geisler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.